There's something profoundly moving about the right words spoken at the right moment to the right woman. But here's what most people never mention. It's not just what you say, it's how you see her as you say it. Many men spend their time admiring a woman's looks, her figure, her hair, her smile. And while she might smile back politely, she's heard those same lines again and again from men who never cared enough to notice anything deeper than the surface. But you're different. You want her to experience something she doesn't often feel. You want her to feel genuinely seen, understood, safe. You want her to sense that you see her heart and spirit, not merely her body. That kind of compliment lingers. It stays with her long after the moment passes, long after you've left. And that's when a woman begins to truly fall, not because of desire alone, but because she feels an authentic emotional connection. If you're exhausted from being overlooked, if you feel like the women you care about never mirror back the energy you give, this is for you. Because when you learn to compliment a woman in a way that touches her emotions, not just her pride, everything starts to shift. The truth is, many men have been misinformed. You were led to believe that confidence by itself would win her over, that wealth, looks, or status would make you irresistible. But ask yourself this: if that were the real key, then why do so many tall, rich, attractive men still get dismissed or unseen? Here's the reality. Attraction isn't purely logical. It's emotional. The quickest way into a woman's heart isn't through expensive gifts or clever tricks, but through her feelings, through her longing to be noticed in a world that constantly tells her to smile wider, to be flawless, to suppress her insecurities and pretend everything is perfect. Women fall for men who make them feel safe enough to be real, who don't judge, who don't break them into parts or treat them like a checklist. When you give a meaningful compliment, one that isn't some tired pickup line or careless throwaway, and you speak it with your full attention, she feels it deeply. Her guard relaxes, her mask slips, and maybe for the first time in a while, she allows herself to wonder what it might be like to be loved without conditions. Compliments like these aren't tricks, they're gateways to genuine connection. And when they're spoken with honesty, they can awaken something inside her she didn't even realize was waiting. Not every woman will be ready for it, but the right one will never forget the way you made her feel. There's something deeply undervalued about peace, especially in a world where everyone is rushing, competing, trying to prove their worth, trying to stand out, trying to be louder just to be noticed. Peace becomes rare, so rare that people begin confusing chaos with love or adrenaline with passion. But here's the truth. If a woman brings you peace, if her mere presence calms the storm within you, if she can make a space feel safer simply by being there, don't keep that to yourself. Tell her she makes life feel peaceful. Those words carry weight. They matter, especially to a woman who has been silently fighting her own invisible battles every single day. She might be smiling, working hard, showing up strong for everyone around her, but inside she's tired, stretched thin, constantly striving to prove she's enough. So when a man truly notices and says, "Being near you makes me feel calm, like I can finally breathe again," something beautiful shifts inside her. She's taken aback, not in a bad way, but in the kind of way that makes her feel truly seen. Most of the compliments she hears are superficial. "You're hot. You're sexy. I love your body." Words like those are repeated so often they've lost their depth. But when a man looks at her and tells her that her very energy brings calm, that changes everything. That's not flattery, that's presence. It shows you noticed her essence, not just her appearance. That's intimacy, that's emotional awareness. And for a woman who's used to being valued only when she's polished, performing, and perfectly composed for the world, hearing that she brings peace simply by existing builds trust. You stop being ordinary. You stop fading into the crowd. You become unforgettable, not because you admired her dress or her lips, but because you honored her soul. That moment opens a door. It allows her to soften, to trust, to open up. Many men think attraction is all about sparks, fire, and instant chemistry. But fire burns out. Peace lasts. Peace lays the groundwork. Peace gives love space to grow. When she realizes that her presence makes you feel calm, she understands she doesn't need to keep her defenses so high. You're not approaching her with pressure, demands, or expectations. You're simply there, grounded, fully present, and she will remember that. Even if it was just one moment, a single conversation, she'll carry those words with her. She'll replay them on quiet nights when she feels unseen. She'll think back to the man who looked at her and saw tranquility, not performance. That is what makes her fall. That is what builds real emotional connection. That is the kind of man she will want to keep close. Not because he dazzled her with cleverness or played games, but because he reminded her of who she truly is beneath all the layers she shows the world. So never underestimate that kind of compliment. Don't wait for the perfect time. If a woman brings you peace, tell her. Let her know her presence softens your world, that her energy feels like a sanctuary. Because in a world that constantly demands she be louder, stronger, and more flawless, hearing that she is enough, that she is peace, might be the thing she didn't even know she longed to hear. That is how you stand out. That is how you connect. That is how you leave a mark, not just in her mind, but in her heart. Most men never express these things, not because they don't feel them, but because they get distracted by the surface. Her curves, her smile, her appearance. And yes, there's nothing wrong with appreciating beauty, but if that's the only thing you ever acknowledge, you'll never reach her soul, because looks can capture attention, but it's her mind and depth that make her unforgettable. The truth is, countless women walk through the world yearning for someone to truly see their intelligence, not just on a resume or in a work setting, but in a personal, emotional way. A woman wants her thoughts to be recognized just as much as her faces. She wants you to be curious about how she thinks, how she feels, how she weaves her emotions into her stories. When you tell her, the way your mind works is incredible, you're not just tossing out a line. You're honoring her depth. You're saying, I see how you think. I appreciate how you bring meaning to words. And for a woman who's used to being valued solely for her looks, that can be healing. It tells her she's more than what she looks like, that her voice matters, that her thoughts captivate you, that you're drawn to her mind, not just her makeup. And here's what's remarkable. When a woman feels seen for her inner world, she begins to shine even brighter on the outside. Her sense of worth deepens. You've touched something few ever touch, her unseen world. And now she sees you differently too, because you're not just observing her, you're experiencing her. You notice the way her eyes light up when she speaks about something she loves. You pay attention to how she frames her stories, the meaning she pours into each word. You admire how she connects ideas, how she makes sense of things in her unique way. When you say, I love how your mind works, you're affirming her essence, the part of her that carries her imagination, her wisdom, her emotional layers. That's what makes women fall. Not the phrase itself, but the attention and genuine presence behind it. It shows you were still, you were listening, you were fully there. And in a noisy world, presence is rare. Men who bring that kind of awareness are rare. And that's what keeps her thinking about you long after you've gone. It's never just about what outfit you wear on a date. It's not about how fancy the restaurant is or how much you spent. What matters most is whether you actually noticed her, whether you heard something in her voice and said, your thoughts are beautiful. That is what she will hold on to in quiet moments at 2 a.m. That is what she'll write about in her journal later, alone. And here's the real secret. When you speak to a woman's mind, you invite her to go deeper. You create space for her to reveal more of who she is. She starts to trust you. She begins to open up. She shares the parts of herself she's never shared with anyone else. Because then it's no longer about trying to impress you, it's about being honest with you. And that is what emotional closeness truly is. So yes, tell her she looks beautiful. Of course, say it. But don't stop there. Because when you speak to her essence, her spirit, her mind, her peace, you don't just become another voice in the noise, you become unforgettable. Also tell her that her thoughts are stunning, that her mind inspires you, that her ideas linger with you long after the night fades, that her words echo through your chest. In a world overflowing with shallow compliments, you stand out when you go beneath the surface. When you speak to the soul behind her eyes, that's when she doesn't just like you. That's when she truly feels you. And from that place of depth, attraction slowly transforms into connection. This is the kind of compliment that seeps into her bones, because genuine strength is often silent. It's the type of strength no one applauds. The kind that's forged quietly when no one is watching, when no one notices, when there's no reward, no audience, no cheers. It's the same strength that many women carry every single day without uttering a word, and yet hardly anyone sees it. Few stop long enough to acknowledge it until you do. You are strong, and you don't even brag about it. Let that sink in. You're not praising her for something flashy. You're not pointing to something exaggerated. You're recognizing something real. And that's rare, because most overlook the strength it takes for a woman to wake up heavy-hearted and still smile, to live in a world that constantly urges her to shrink, yet she chooses to love, to give, to keep believing. That is authentic strength. She might be working long hours, raising children, managing a household, carrying memories of old hurts, maintaining friendships, dealing with quiet anxieties, holding the weight of years in her chest. And she does all of this without asking for applause. But you notice, and when you tell her she's strong, not because she shows it off, but because she simply is, that moment becomes sacred. It's not just a compliment, it's a mirror reflecting her truest self back to her. Do you realize how many women cry silently in bathrooms so nobody hears? How many pretend they're fine so others won't feel uneasy? How many put everyone else first? Not because they want to be martyrs, but because they've learned asking for help can be mistaken for weakness. So when someone arrives, whether it's a friend, a lover, or someone passing through, and sees that strength, names it out loud, he becomes unforgettable. You become the first person who truly saw her, who looked beyond appearances and recognized the resilience hidden beneath her gentle smile. That is intimacy. That is the language of trust. She might even look startled when you say it, not because she doubts you, but because she's never heard it spoken before. She's so used to moving through life unacknowledged that hearing those words feels almost unreal. But deep down, she won't forget them, because they were spoken from presence and sincerity. And that is the difference between mere attraction and meaningful connection. Any man can chase after a woman, any man can tell her she's beautiful, but it takes someone real to see her soul, to recognize her quiet power and say, "You are strong." And the fact that you don't exaggerate makes the words even more powerful. You're showing her you perceive more than the surface. You see her as she truly is, even when she's not performing for anyone. That kind of awareness creates safety. It makes her exhale more freely around you. It makes her want to share more, because now she's valued for her humanity, not just her strength. If you ever meet a woman who carries herself with calm grace, who moves with patience, who doesn't complain yet clearly shoulders invisible burdens, tell her. Tell her you notice. Tell her you admire it. because those might be the very words she's longed to hear without even knowing it. And when you speak to that strength, not to claim it, not to fix it, but to honor it, you become someone she can finally rest with. That's what makes you unforgettable. This is the kind of compliment that doesn't just reach her ears, it reaches her spirit, it stays, it lingers long after the conversation ends. Because for once, you're not analyzing or categorizing her, you're simply responding to her presence. And in a culture obsessed with image and perfection, that sort of emotional honesty is magnetic. There's something about a person's energy that words can't fully describe. It pulls you in. Women are used to being measured, compared, judged. From their teenage years, they've been taught to control their appearance, their smiles, their demeanor. To be pleasant, to be attractive, to be likable, but not too outspoken. To be desirable, but never too direct. Over time, this builds emotional armor. She learns how to be chosen, but not always how to be truly felt. So when someone arrives and says he feels something from her, not from her clothes, not from her makeup, not from how she moves, but from the energy she radiates, something inside her shifts. Because you're not noticing what she curated, you're sensing what she is. It's not about what she does, it's about who she is. And here's the thing, many women don't even realize they're doing this. They don't know their presence is magnetic. They're not trying to be. They just exist in their truth, their softness, their fire, their stillness, their wisdom. And when you feel that, when something inside you stirs and you have the courage to name it, you become unforgettable. Because it isn't rehearsed, it's real. And women always recognize realness. That one simple statement says, I'm not trying to own you. I'm not boxing you in. I'm simply noticing you. And what I feel, I can't fully explain, but it draws me closer. That kind of honesty creates space, emotional space, for her to be herself without fear. She no longer has to wonder, am I enough? Am I impressing him? No, she can simply be. And that's when a woman truly blossoms. Energy is the most honest signal people give. It can't be faked or polished. It's the quiet truth that either pulls others in or pushes them away. And when her energy pulls you closer, when you feel that soul-level spark, say it. Even if you stumble, even if your words aren't flawless, say it anyway. Because that awareness makes a woman lean in. Not because she's being wooed, but because she finally feels seen. Not for her face, not for her figure, but for her essence. It creates a kind of closeness that plain compliments can't. And the beauty of it is, you didn't force anything. You didn't strategize. You just felt it and had the bravery to speak it. That's how emotional chemistry begins. So don't hold back from saying, I don't even know what it is, but there's something about you. Your energy calms me, it moves me, it stirs me. Those aren't just words, they're reflections. They show her who she truly is, even if she hadn't realized it herself. When you do that, when you acknowledge not only what she shows, but what she radiates, you become unforgettable. Here's a truth most people rarely admit. We all want to feel like we're enough, but deep down, many fear they're not. Not strong enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, not stable enough. And within that hidden fear, so many men build their romantic lives around one goal, impressing women. They spend money they don't have, say things they don't mean, reshape themselves into someone they're not just to earn attention, just to feel important. But here's the twist. The women truly worth keeping don't want a man who performs for them. They want a man who evolves because he chooses to. Not to please, not to fake, but because something about her presence awakens a deeper part of him. That's why this kind of compliment holds such power. You make me want to grow, not to impress you, but to be worthy of you. When those words are spoken, you show her that her presence elevates you, not through fear or insecurity, but through reverence and genuine admiration. And that opens her heart wide, because it tells her, I see your worth, I feel your light. And it stirs something inside me that I didn't even know was dormant. You're not chasing her, you're rising toward her. You're not changing only for her, you're becoming more of who you were meant to be because her presence reminds you of your own strength and potential. That type of compliment doesn't just land, it transforms. It's not a show, it's elevation. It's not empty flattery, it's something greater. She becomes a mirror, not one that highlights your flaws, but one that reflects your power. And when a woman realizes she brings that out in you, that she awakens your inner protector, your leader, your purposeful spirit, she doesn't just feel admired, she feels chosen. And make no mistake, this isn't about putting her on a pedestal or handing her your worth. It's about meeting her energy with presence, honesty, and strength. It's about self-awareness. It's about being open enough to say something about you moves me to grow in the best way. Not because you push me to, but because your presence carries a truth that pulls me higher. That kind of openness is magnetic, because women are exhausted by men who try to buy their way in, who pretend confidence, who showcase success without real substance. But when a man says, "You make me want to rise into my best self," not because you need me to, but because I genuinely want to meet you where you stand, something shifts. That's where trust starts to build. She begins to see you as more than a lover. She sees you as a partner, as someone who doesn't compete with her light, but reflects it. So if you ever find a woman who inspires you to think deeper, move with greater honesty, break unhealthy cycles, and heal your quiet wounds, tell her. Let her know you're not trying to impress her with status. You're aligning your soul to meet her with truth and strength. That is how real connection is created. That is how a woman starts to fall. Not for the man who pretends perfection, but for the man who says, "I'm evolving, I'm learning, I'm becoming." And your presence shows me why it matters. That is how you move from interest to closeness, from attraction to meaning. Because at the core of it, she doesn't want a superhero. She wants a human being, a man with the courage to grow and the humility to say, "You make me better, and I want to grow with you." That is what makes her stay. There's a kind of quiet magic that appears when a man no longer feels the need to perform, when he stops chasing perfection, when he doesn't try to impress with shallow stories, brag about wealth, hide his softness, or wear a mask of confidence that barely covers his fear. That kind of freedom, the freedom to just exist, is rare. And when a woman gives you that feeling, when her presence allows you to rest into your truth, that is a gift beyond words. So when you tell a woman, "I feel like I can truly be myself around you," you're doing something powerful. You're not just offering praise. You're trusting her with your honesty. You're saying, "You are safe. You don't judge me. You don't demand a version of me. You accept me." And that reaches something deep in her spirit. Because here's a truth many men overlook. Women are not only hoping to feel safe around a man, they also long to be a safe place for a man. They want to be where you can land, where you can laugh without holding back, cry without shame, dream without fearing mockery. A place where your scars aren't used against you, but held with care. When you tell a woman, "I feel like I can be myself with you," you're letting her see the side of you the world rarely witnesses. Not the polished version, not the social image, but the real you. And what you're really saying is, "I trust you, not just with my time or my body, but with my truth." That moment right there is when connection turns sacred, because a woman who hears those words and feels their depth knows she's not just another face in your story. She's a home, a place where your soul can rest, where your guard can drop, where your shoulders no longer have to hold up the entire world. And that is when she falls. Not because she's flattered, not because you delivered some slick rehearsed line, but because you offered her something rare, emotional honesty. You are showing her the part of you that is deeply human. Not only the provider, the protector, the strong one, but the part that gets afraid, the part that grows weary, the part that longs to be loved for who you are, not just for what you do. And that is a compliment she will never forget. Because in that moment, you've rewritten the story. Instead of trying to prove your worth to her, you are honoring her worth by letting her see your truth. That is emotional generosity. That is spiritual closeness. That is what makes her want to hold you, not just with her arms, but with her heart. Because now she knows you're not hiding from her, you're inviting her in. So don't underestimate those words. Don't assume you always need to be composed, polished, or perfectly put together. If a woman makes you feel safe enough to be silly, to be quiet, to be raw, to be real, tell her. Because in a world where so many pretend, where countless relationships are built on illusions, that kind of truth is rare treasure. And the woman who makes you feel that way, she deserves to know. Because while others may only see the exterior, she's the one who gets to witness the real you. And when you look into her eyes and say, "With you, I feel like I can finally be myself," you're not just giving her words. You're choosing her with your truth, your openness, your humanity. And in doing so, you become the kind of man women don't just fall for, they fall with. Because now you're not only creating attraction, you're creating home. There's a kind of compliment that reaches beyond the moment and echoes into a woman's future. And it's this one. Because every woman, no matter how strong, successful, or independent, quietly longs for peace. Not the fake kind, not silence born from avoidance, but the kind of peace that feels like a deep breath, a heart released, no performance, just safety. When you tell a woman, "You're the kind of woman I could build peace with," you're not speaking of a fling. You're not talking about sparks that flare quickly and fade. You're speaking to her soul's hope. You're saying, "I don't just see you as someone to chase. I see you as someone I could build a life with," and that touches her differently. Most compliments look backward. "You looked beautiful. I liked what you said. You made my day brighter." But this one pulls her forward into a vision of love that isn't chaos, where she's not just surviving a relationship, but thriving inside it, where being with a man doesn't feel like a battle, it feels like home. And she'll hold on to that because women are tired of games, of drama, of men who don't know what they truly want. So when you as a man recognize her potential for peace, not only in life but with you, you are inviting her into something sacred, a genuine union. You're not telling her you want to possess her. You're telling her you want to build something steady, gentle, and meaningful together. And she will see you differently after that, because now she's not wondering if she must compete with your pride, match your ambition, or shrink herself to fit your love. Now she knows she can bring her entire self, and you will build with her, not tear her down. That isn't just attraction, that's purpose. So don't just praise her looks. Praise her spirit. Praise the way her presence makes you think beyond the moment. Because that is what separates a man who simply flirts from a man who truly leads. Here's what every man should understand. Women don't fall for words. They fall for feelings, for how you make them feel about themselves in the quiet spaces, in the unguarded seconds, in the stillness between your sentences. Compliments carry weight, yes, but only when they're rooted in awareness, in presence, in truly seeing her not just as a body, but as a soul. When you say, "You're strong, you bring me calm, I feel safe with you," you're offering her something the world rarely gives, real recognition. And that kind of recognition creates gravity between souls. That's what keeps her thinking of you long after the messages stop, long after the date ends, long after you've walked away. So speak with intention. Compliment not only her beauty, but her essence, her thoughts, her presence. Speak to her wounds, her hopes, her truth. And when you do, when you go beyond surface words into soul-level honesty, you become unforgettable.